We've been waiting for quite some time for Pools VR to make its way over from Steam onto PSVR2, and it's finally here today on the 25th, so I can talk about it. Pools on the surface is a Backrooms style game where you make your way through nonsensical pool room after pool room, taking in the sense of unease and abstract horror. But does the PSVR2 port live up to the praise that this game has gotten on other platforms? And I hesitate to call it a game, to be honest, because it's more of an experience. I would say yes, but with some caveats. The main one being visuals and performance. But we'll get into that. So let's thank our patrons and members who are all on screen right now. Feel free to like and subscribe if you feel like it, and let's talk about Pools VR on PSVR2. Now we're going to start with the PSVR2 port of the game first. Before I talk about all the stuff I absolutely love about this, let's talk about the objective facts about this game and how it runs, how it looks. When you purchase Pools, you'll be buying the flat and VR version. It's just called Pools, it runs in VR and on normal PS5. When you boot up the game, you'll have to use your DualSense to enable VR mode, and then use your Sense controllers from there. From this point, you'll have 6 consecutive chapters to play through, and then an extra 7th one that pops up at the end that you can go and play afterwards. These will take you through a variety of different environments, which all look fantastic visual design-wise, but the resolution of this one is a little bit weird. Up close to mid distances, the game looks great, but past that, there are some fairly hefty issues with aliasing here. The game does make use of dynamic foveated rendering to hit its target of 90Hz, and for the most part it achieves this, but in later levels it does dip below 90 and you can tell. It's not quite hitting 60 to 120 reprojected, but it isn't hitting 90 at certain points. These moments are few and far between, but they do exist, at least from the build that I've played, which was about 6 hours before the game's release date. It has a ton of toggles in terms of accessibility, movement speed, teleport. If you feel like you're moving too fast or you feel like the sprint is not fast enough, you can adjust all of these, which is awesome. Also here in the menus are the options to turn on and off dynamic foveated rendering, and this produced some strange effects. Usually when DFR is toggled off, the image gets a lot less sharp because it's trying to render out everything and not just where you're looking. But I found that the opposite was the case for Pools. When I turned off DFR, the overall image seemed to get a little bit sharper, and I'll see if I can show you what I mean here with this comparison of a sine. What I'm guessing is happening here is that when DFR is turned off, the game targets 60 to 120 reprojected, as it does feel reprojected when it is turned off, and that means that potentially it can target a higher resolution, and then when it was turned on, it just seemed like the overall resolution was brought down a little bit, everything was made a tiny bit softer to hit that frame rate mark. I would recommend playing through the game with DFR on because the performance is buttery smooth for the most part, aside from those few hitches in the more busy areas, but it's interesting that this is present here in the game. Now you can opt for having no blinders on at all throughout your playthrough, but there are certain areas where blinders are put on no matter if you toggle them on or off. This is when the perspective of the world shifts and you walk up a wall, for an example. I'm really curious, I'll have to look on Steam whether or not this is present in that build of the game, because this is a really mind-bending moment that is kind of ruined by having tunneling on, but I suspect this is a Sony requirement. They're really strict on motion sickness, and something like this I feel it would be an issue in QA, so I have a feeling this annoying tunneling in certain areas of the game, honestly it makes up only a couple of seconds throughout your playthrough, but it is a cool moment that is kind of spoiled, is mandated by Sony, which is unfortunate. Headset haptics I don't think are used from what I can tell, but controller haptics are when you're splashing throughout the water. And the water interactions here are fantastic.
Ooh, look at that. Look at the water. The ripple.
I can thankfully say though that the OLED implementation here is fantastic. The HDR looks amazing. There are such bright environments contrasted with dark hallways, and I couldn't really see any mirror at all. Very clean image, OLED panel is utilized perfectly. So the PSVR2 port leaves a bit to be desired, leaves a bit on the table, but I implore you to listen on because I still want to justify why I really enjoyed this game, despite those issues that I just mentioned. Pools took me about an hour and a half to complete, and you complete it by finding the exit out of each of the levels. It's essentially a maze game. But I do encourage you to explore as much as possible, because some of the areas here look downright jaw-dropping. Tensory, the studio behind Pools, has put a serious amount of effort into crafting a visual style and mood that feels polished and eerie as hell. Throughout the entirety of my playthrough of Pools, I felt like I was being watched, and even though the game totes itself as having no enemies and is purely an atmospheric experience, that doesn't mean that you're completely alone down there. A shadow here, a strange whisper there, there's a lot put into the sound design and visual design of Pools to make you feel like you're in a place that you don't belong. Your character also has no voice, and there's no context given to why you're in this place, adding an extra level to the eeriness and the tension. You're not expecting the next jump scare around a corner, but you are listening out for every little noise, trying to figure out what may be stalking you in the shadows. It plays mind games and tricks on you, and it works brilliantly. The dev team talked a lot about the work they put into the shaders for the water in this game before launch as well, optimizing it for the PS5 and PSVR2, and they look downright beautiful. The reflections are fantastic, the water interacts as you'd imagine it should, and I'm glad they nailed this integral part of the pool's Backrooms experience. Throughout your hour to an hour and a half journey in this game, you'll experience a variety of different visual styles as well. I'm trying not to show absolutely everything in this review because there are some places that will truly blow your mind, but you'll go from tiles to bricks to wooden saunas to industrial areas, and the game kept on surprising me with the next area.
The water shaders look amazing. I can't go over how good they look. Look at the light reflected off of that. It's crazy.
Two things that the game does exceptionally well are scale and sound. Whether it's the towering slides that you can actually ride, by the way, points for that, and sometimes it's necessary to ride them, to the huge gaping archways that make you wonder what size creature is that needed for.
Whoa. That's properly spooky. I don't know why. Atmosphere is amazing, like the sound.
To the howling that you hear from the other side of the pool rooms, the splashes when you know that you're not moving.
What was that? I had my mic muted when that happened, but what the fuck? Fuck that.
It's a masterclass in building atmosphere. And I'm not sure on the price on the PS Store. On Steam, this is £8.50, so I'd imagine it might be a little bit more expensive on the PlayStation side of things, just because how the PlayStation Store works and takes a cut. Having that feeling for an hour and a half for the price of what is essentially a cheap cinema ticket is a pretty damn good deal, especially if you're into the backrooms, pool rooms, horror kind of stuff. Finally though, I just want to address the fact that this is going to be a love it or hate it kind of game. And the fact that I've been saying game throughout this review probably annoys quite a few of you, I'm going to be honest, because it might not be classed as that. I even said that at the start of this review. You're not going to be fighting enemies or solving puzzles, you're just going to be finding your way out and exploring these weird areas. And some of you, like me, are going to absolutely love that. You're going to see past the somewhat blurry longer distance resolution, or the slight performance hitches later, and you're going to get immersed into this world and love every second of exploring it. But some of you are going to see this as boring, pointless and meandering, and I completely understand that. It's going to be interesting to see how this one finds its audience on PSVR2 because it is a game like no other. It's its own thing, it's weird, it's one of a kind on PSVR2, and I hope it does well because it is masterfully crafted in its own little way. It reminds me a bit of the utility room in that aspect. Something that not everyone will understand or get, and that's completely fine, but the people that do are going to really enjoy themselves. Anyway, I hope that this somewhat explained what Pools is to you if you were unaware, and if you're looking forward to it, I hope this has affirmed you in getting it and enjoying it. Just be aware, I did run into some issues with frame rate later on, ever so slightly, and the aliasing is a bit of a visual issue. Thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you all in the next one. Bye bye.